Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie, and it is Sunday, July the 9th, 2023, and I want to talk about Mars in Virgo because on Monday, July the 10th, 2023, Mars enters Virgo and it stays in Virgo until August the 27th. So in this video, I just want to discuss what it might mean for Mars to be in Virgo. What should we look for? And I also want to look at a few horoscopes which are relevant to Mars in Virgo, people with Mars in Virgo, just to get a sense of what Mars in Virgo might be about. So to begin with, we need to consider what it actually means when Mars moves into Virgo, because it has been in Leo for a long time and now it's changed sign. So Mars in Leo is very much into itself. Mars is a masculine planet. In Leo, it's in a masculine sign. So that's all about perhaps having a strong sense of self, perhaps having a big ego, looking for praise, looking for attention. Those are all the themes with Mars in Leo. And then Mars moves into Virgo. Virgo is a feminine sign. It's very different from Leo. It is often service orientated. It's not always trying to initiate, it's just trying to respond. Mars in Virgo is where we want to put our energy. No longer are we trying to put our energy into getting loads of attention, but we're starting to want to put our energy into, for example, details, getting the details right. I mean, that is a constructive thing to do with Mars in Virgo, putting energy into making sure that we haven't made mistakes, and so that is good. Virgo is a Mercury ruled sign, so there can be an argumentative side to Virgo. So Virgo is quite good at fact-checking. And so with Mars and Virgo, there might be a lot of nitpicking, people going at each other's small mistakes and blowing them out of all proportion. That's one aspect of it. Just having arguments for the sake of it. And, Virgo is a very critical sign. So there might be a lot of criticism which may go too far. It's good to be criticized if you're making a mistake and you want to correct that mistake, but there can be a situation when you just get criticism for the sake of criticism, and that can be a problem with Mars in Virgo. As far as society is concerned, Virgo is often connected with health. So, when you look at the news, you might find there's more energy put into, the health service. People are going to be thinking about their health service. For example, I don't know, in the United Kingdom, the National Health Service is very important. And if the National Health Service, people think that's underfunded, they might want to do something about it. They might protest, complain, whatever. So if you're in the UK, National Health Service could really be on your mind. Virgo can be I don't mean this in a literal sense, but it can be a little paranoid about its health. So we might find ourselves worrying about our health, perhaps too much. Of course, if you've got a genuine worry, you've got to go and see a doctor and make sure nothing's wrong. But in certain situations there may be a case where we overdo it, and on a psychological level it can be something a little obsessive about Mars in Virgo. So Mars in Virgo might just put just so much energy into getting the details right that it becomes a bit crazy. You know, putting so much attention on the details that actually things grind to a halt. So those are the kind of things you can expect when Mars moves from Leo into Virgo. Of course, bear in mind, Mars in Virgo is just one planet. It's just one thing going on. There are all sorts of other things going on astrologically, which you need to balance that with. So, I'm looking at Mars in Virgo in a very pure sense, and for sure, there's a certain amount of exaggeration in what I'm saying. Now, as far as the flow of Mars as it moves through Virgo from July the 10th to August the 27th, here is the positions of the planets at the precise moment when Mars moved into Virgo. By the way, this character here, his name is Ngo Din Diem. I'm going to be talking very briefly about him later. I just put him up because he's a character with Mars. He's got Mars in Virgo. He was a South Vietnamese president, and I don't know, late 50s, early 60s, and I'll be talking about him very briefly, but I just wanted to put a picture up. It could have been someone else. Going back to the positions of the planets at that precise time, the Mars moves into Virgo. So, as I said, in London, it's 12:40 p.m. on Monday. If in other parts of the world, it will be at a different time. If you're in Los Angeles, 4:40 a.m. New York, 7:40 a.m. Paris, 1:40 p.m. Mumbai, 6:10 p.m. In Sydney, Australia, 9:40 p.m. So these are the start positions. And right at the beginning, Mars, as it moves into Virgo, is also on Regulus, the royal star. And so in astrology, Regulus is connected with, kings, queens, heads of states. And, with Mars on Regulus, there could be irritation with heads of states. People could get annoyed with them. I think that the First World War started with the assassination of Grand Duke Ferdinand in Sarajevo, and I believe at the time of the assassination, Mars was in Virgo. Now, I'm not saying that a head of state is going to get assassinated while Mars is in Virgo. In fact, it's a very common thing for Mars going into Virgo. Mars has a 2-year cycle, so every 2 years Mars is in Virgo. But it just shows that there is going to potentially be an irritation with heads of states, government ministers. They're going to attract protest because people are going to be annoyed with them while Mars is on Regulus. With the Grand Duke Ferdinand, actually, I'm not saying it was because Mars was on Regulus. I'm just saying it just so happens to be that he was assassinated while Mars was in Virgo. That wasn't really a Regulus event. Heads of states, governments, by the same token, because Mars is on Regulus, may feel they have to defend themselves. They may feel they have to crack down. So that's something to look at over the next next few days. On a constructive level with Mars on Regulus, for those of us that are really ambitious, now might be a good time to do some really serious networking if you want to meet with important people. You never know who you might meet. It's always worth it if you're really that kind of person who's desperate to be successful, who's desperate to meet influential people. Yeah, you might strike lucky if you do it all right. If you get your details right. So if you're writing letters, emails, whatever, Mars and Virgo, you'll be able to craft that letter perhaps very well. So Mars moves off Regulus, and on July the 20th, Mars moves on, and it makes an opposition aspect to Saturn. Now, a Mars-Saturn opposition is, it's really the worst aspect in the book, because Mars and Saturn are the two malefics, and together Mars and Saturn are connected with death and destruction. Although usually when you've got a Mars-Saturn aspect, it's about feeling really frustrated. And, I suppose it's that frustration that often causes all of the destruction. We're so frustrated we go and do something stupid. We lash out, or we think it's, drive fast, or we get involved in dangerous sports. So just be careful around the 20th. Just don't do anything dangerous. Don't get frustrated. If you do feel frustrated, do something constructive. Meditate, or bang some drums, or whatever you feel works best for you. So after the 20th, Mars moves on. By August the 1st, Mars is making a trine aspect to Jupiter, which is good. Mars in Virgo, trine Jupiter in Taurus. It's very material, very materialistic. And so that might be a good time to really focus perhaps on making money, or setting up a business, or doing well in your career. This is around the 1st of August. But you have to be careful that you don't go too far, because by the 2nd of August, Mars is making a sesquiquadrate with Pluto. That could be the use of enormous force, too much force, to get a very small result. Now, around the 13th of August, Mars is 21 Virgo. So while Mars is from 21 Virgo on the 13th of August to 28 Virgo on the 24th of August, from approximately the 13th to the 24th of August, Mars will be in its own terms, and I'm using the Egyptian terms, and this is a dignity that traditional astrologers use. So Mars is at its best when it's in its own terms. It's at home, so it's comfortable with its assertiveness. So this might be a good time to be assertive. Our assertive actions are likely to have the best chance of being successful. Now, on the 16th of August, Mars makes a trine aspect to Uranus. That could be a bit crazy, a bit out of control. It's not as bad as like an opposition or a square to Uranus, but when Mars is square Uranus, Mars is trine Uranus, we might be doing something. It comes easily, but it might create some really unfortunate and unexpected results. Then on the 22nd of August, Mars is opposition Neptune. So Mars has come right here and it's opposition Neptune, and that's not good news. Mars at not opposition Neptune is just it means that we're going to put a lot of effort into nothing. Neptune is about fantasy. Neptune can be about, at worst, it can be about drugs and alcohol. So you've got to really stay clear of drugs and alcohol around August the 22nd. Or if you're involved in trying to get something done, it just might seem that your efforts are getting absolutely nowhere. Okay, Mars is still in its own terms on the 22nd, but Neptune could cause a lot of damage. Just the inability to really get anything done. And then the final major aspect before Mars leaves Virgo is its trine to Pluto on the 25th. Mars trine Pluto, we can get a lot done, but in a dramatic way. If we can use our energy to transform the situation around us. But as with Mars trine Uranus, we have to be careful of unintended consequences. We have to consider how are other people going to respond to what we're doing. People might get hurt if we're not careful. Now, as far as the 12 signs are concerned, you can, in a very general sense, go through the 12 signs and say, well, what does it mean when Mars is in Virgo for the 12 signs? So I'm just very quickly going to go through that. So if you're in Aries, if you're in Aries, Mars in Virgo is might mean that you're going to be putting a lot of effort into the details. It's not typical Aries stuff. You're going to want to get things absolutely right. If you're a Taurus, Mars in Virgo can actually be very creative. You're going to be able to create something using a fine sense of detail. So detail might seem boring and uncreative and not creative, but in this case, Taurus can use the details. By focusing on the details, can really create something wonderful. Gemini, Mars in Virgo. With Mars in Virgo, Gemini should be very careful about dealing with its home and family. Spend too much time at home and Gemini can start feeling really frustrated, and there could be arguments and disagreements with family members. If you're a Cancer, Mars in Virgo, Mars in Virgo is a good time for Cancerians to go dancing. I say that because in Indian astrology, the third house has a connection with dancing. But it's also a good time for low-level communication, getting your message across in a fairly assertive kind of way. Leo, Mars in Virgo, perhaps you're going to be putting a lot of effort into sorting out your finances. That is something that you could be doing. You're really going to want to sort out the details of your finances if you're a Leo with Mars in Virgo. If you're a Virgo and you've got Mars in your own star sign, well, it's probably quite good. You're going to have a huge amount of energy. The question is, what do you do with that energy? And there is a certain danger that you might be accident prone. If you're Libra with Mars in Virgo, well, while Mars is in Virgo, I think it's probably best if you keep a low profile, or if you are wanting to assert yourself, you do it in a way that other people don't see, behind the scenes stuff, that kind of thing. Scorpio, Mars rules Scorpio. Mars in Virgo is the solar 11th house. It's technically speaking, if you're into sun sign astrology. Scorpios are going to be putting a lot of effort into realizing their hopes and wishes, and you also might want to do your social life. Could be quite frantic, but when you're dealing with your friends, Scorpio, you don't want to lose your friends, because there's a danger, Scorpio, that you're the one raising all the issues. You're the one doing the nitpicking. And if you criticize people too much, they'll just go. So watch out for that. If you're a Sagittarius, Mars in Virgo is generally pretty good, because here is Sagittarius. You can see that Sagittarius is here, and so from Sagittarius, Virgo is the 10th house from Sagittarius. So Mars in Virgo might allow you to be very successful in your career, because you're able to put a lot of work into your career, put a lot of effort into your career, and you're going to want to really focus on the details. And if you get the details right without going over the top, you can really make a name for yourself. Capricorn, Mars in Virgo. It's a difficult thing, because you're going to want to in some ways you're going to want to transcend. You're going to want to move above your everyday existence, but you're going to want to do it right. And so some Capricorns are going to be looking for the right philosophy, or perhaps the right religion, and you're going to be very picky about what kind of religion, philosophy you're going to go for. You're going to want to make sure everything makes sense. Or if religion and philosophy isn't to your taste, then maybe travel. I suppose if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the summer, traveling. You're going to be putting a lot of effort into that. But Mars can be quite an accident-prone planet. So if you are going traveling, particularly overseas, Capricorn, make sure you've got good travel insurance and don't take risks. If you're an Aquarius, Mars in Virgo, you're just going to be focusing on probably the details of your money, other people's money. You might also be concerned about emotional details. You'll be really picking up on other people's deeper feelings, and perhaps trying to really work out what those deep feelings are all about, and really trying to analyze them. And finally, Pisces. If you're a Pisces, you have got Mars in your opposite sign, Virgo. So yes, you might want to put a lot of effort into your relationships, but it might go wrong. When you're in a one-to-one relationship, when you're closely involved with another person, then there might be arguments. So relationships need to be treated with great caution while Mars is in Virgo. So that gives you a general idea about Mars in Virgo, and I want to now just look at some charts. So the first chart I want to look at is Donald Trump's chart. Now, Donald Trump's chart is interesting because his ascendant is 29 degrees 58 minutes Libra, according to the time given. Now, that means that, it says 10:54. If he had been born ever so slightly later, I mean, we're talking seconds later, his ascendant would not be Leo, it would be Virgo. So, I'm sure he's got Leo rising simply through what he looks like, that big, his hair, and he just looks and behaves like a Leo. But didn't Trump say that he was a germaphobe or something like that? He does have some strange obsessions, so which make me think, well, maybe he's got Virgo rising. I mean, it's possible. But whether he's got Leo or Virgo rising, when Mars goes into Virgo on the 11th, it's basically going straight into Trump's first house. And so I think when you're looking at what he's doing, particularly over the next, particularly immediately after the sign change, he may be really, really trying to assert himself and establish himself, for example, as the main, the person who is going to get the Republican nomination. So yeah, see what Trump's doing. Mid-July. He may be very, very active. So let's look at another chart. Well, okay, I better focus on this person who I have put up here, Ngo Din Diem. I've chosen him because that's his solar return. Let's have Ngo Din Diem. Sorry. There he is. There's his Mars in Virgo. So Ngo Dinh Diem is interesting because he was Vietnamese. He during the Second World War, he collaborated with the Japanese. But as was so often the case, that after the Japanese surrender, the people who collaborated with the Japanese in places like Vietnam were very often promoted because they were seen as anti-communist. And yeah, he had Mars in Virgo, and he got a great tribute at the beginning of the Vietnam War from someone who did have his sun in Virgo, and that was LBJ, Lyndon B. L.B. Johnson. And in 1961, Lyndon B. Johnson said that Ngo Dinh Diem was the Churchill of Asia. And that was 61. And Zelensky in Ukraine should really think about Ngo Dinh Diem. He was lionized by the West in 1961. Yet, 2 years later, 1963, November the 2nd, 1963, November the 1st, 1963, there was a coup in South Vietnam, which was supported by the CIA, and Ngo Dinh Diem was executed. He was surplus to requirement. Remember, he was not executed by communists. He was executed in a way by his own people. And just to illustrate this, here is his solar arc direction. Remember, he's got his sun at 11 Virgo. So his solar arc direction for November the 2nd, 1963, we can see that Saturn, solar arc directed Saturn, was at 11:35 Pisces. So let's go back to Ngo Dinh Diem's chart. You can see his Saturn, solar arc directed, came to the opposition of his natal Mars in Virgo, and that's when there was a coup, and when he was executed. I'm not sure whether he was executed, murdered, assassinated. There was a gun and a bayonet involved. So that's Ngo Dinh Diem. So let's look at Prince Harry. Prince Harry does not have Mars in Virgo. He has the Sun in Virgo. But recently with Prince Harry, we were hearing about his former girlfriend, Chelsy Davy. And some people were saying, oh, she was the love of his life, but somehow, he always regretted splitting with her. That was right. When he was in the court, with this case against Mirror Group newspapers, it was noticed how he mentioned Chelsy Davy far more than he mentioned Meghan. And so Chelsy Davy, she has a Venus-Mars conjunction in Virgo. Mars at 21 Virgo, Venus at 26 Virgo. So Harry, with his Sun in Virgo, you can see why he might have found her so attractive, because her Venus-Mars conjunction was right there next to his Sun. So there's Chelsy Davis. I know absolutely nothing about her, by the way. There's her Mars at 21 Virgo. there's Harry's sun at 22 Virgo, and her Mars in Virgo was also trine Harry's moon. Having said that, in a relationship, having Mars in Virgo, Chelsy Davies Mars in Virgo, okay, how would that work out? So if a woman has Mars in Virgo, that might suggest that she's looking for the Mars in Virgo principle in the opposite sex. So, and there's Harry. Harry's got his sun at 22 Virgo, very close to her Mars in Virgo. So I think that that explains why she might have been attracted to him. So someone else who is going to be affected by Mars in Virgo at some stage is Meghan. Now, Meghan does not have Mars in Virgo, but she has Venus in Virgo. So while Mars is moving through Virgo, it will at some stage hit her Venus. Off the top of my head, that would be early August. So she will have Mars on her Venus. So how is she going to experience that? She might be annoyed. It might have some impact on her relationship with Harry, but I'm not going to speculate too much. I had to throw Meghan's chart in somewhere. Now, as far as Joe Biden is concerned, again, Joe Biden does not have Mars in Virgo, but he has the North Node in Virgo. So Mars is about to cross Joe Biden's North Node. So I would see North Node in this situation not really about karma. It is about karma and where you're supposed to be going to, but about contacts, because that is an interpretation of the North Node. So Mars in Virgo conjunct Joe Biden's North Node. Angry contacts. That's one way of dealing with one way it might manifest. Mars is a universal significator of soldiers. So it may be Monday, Tuesday, he has meetings with soldiers. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just illustrating that as a way we might think about having Mars on your North Node. Mars is also will be on Biden's Mars in Virgo will be trine his moon in Taurus. Maybe he's he's going to say something, perhaps. Moon is a communication planet, so if you've got Mars trine your moon, maybe Biden will blurt something out. It will just come. We may not hear about it, because not everything he says is in the public eye. Now, as far as Ukraine is concerned, bringing it up again, we shouldn't forget that Ukraine is a Virgo country and born on August the 24th, 1991, and Ukraine has its sun at 056 Virgo. So Monday, Tuesday, Mars will be on Ukraine's sun. I don't know. It's already involved in a war, so Mars is associated with war. So that's stating the obvious. We know Ukraine's got, it's always fighting. So Mars conjunct the Sun is just more of the same, but it may represent something specific. The Sun can represent the leader, the president, Zelensky. It could be aggressive actions taken by Ukraine which stand out, or perhaps aggressive actions against Ukraine which stand out. So that's a way way of looking at it. Now there is another organization which I discussed a few days ago, which has its sun at 1 Virgo, is NATO. So this is a chart for when NATO came into being, when it was fully ratified. So Mars, as it moves into Virgo, is moving on to NATO's sun. And this is happening, again, as I've already discussed, at the time NATO is having its summit in Vilnius. And this summit starts on Tuesday. So that suggests to me that this summit is going to, it's going to be a very aggressive message. I don't think that the Russians are going to drop fire a hypersonic missile at Vilnius in the middle of the summit. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think we could see very strong statements from NATO. Stronger than expected. Of course, things are ramping up. The United States has just announced that it's going to be sending cluster munitions to Ukraine, even though they're banned in most countries. They're not banned in the US, they're not banned in Russia, they're not banned in Ukraine. So it's creating an aggressive situation. And if you look at NATO's chart, you'll see that it's got quite a lot of planets in Virgo. It's got Sun at 1 Virgo, Moon at 7 Virgo, Saturn at 8 Virgo, Mercury at 24 Virgo. So as Mars moves through Virgo from July the 10th onwards, it will be triggering all of these planets one after the other. Yes, this happens every 2 years, but it is happening at a time when NATO is effectively at war with Russia. So, this is going to really encourage NATO to really ramp things up. So that's about it. I've just gone through a load of charts just to give us a feel about Mars in Virgo, what it might mean. I hope you found that interesting, and I will talk to you again very soon.